Hello everybody and welcome into the CLNS Media Patriots pregame show for Week 3 between the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans. My name is Alex Barth. We're getting you ready for Patriots action here for the next half an hour, taking you up till kickoff, whether you're watching live on the CLNS Media YouTube page or live on Periscope. We're happy to have you here checking out the show. If you guys have any questions, anything you want me to talk about, I got my points I want to hit on. If you guys got anything you want me to talk about, feel free to put it in the comments, the chat, whatever the medium may be, and I'll be more than happy to touch on it. I just want to remind everybody before we start, this is the CLNS Media Patriots pregame show. You can follow CLNS on Twitter at CLNS Media, at Patriots_beat for all of our Patriots coverage. You can follow Mike Petraglia at Trags on Twitter. He'll have our coverage during the game. And then Mike and Marv will be back right here post-game for analysis and more. And this is all made possible by the great people at FanDuel, which is what fantasy football fans have been waiting for, because football is back. It's fantasy football for everyday fans. New contests starting every week, so no busted seasons. You don't have to worry about injuries, suspensions, whatever. You get a new lineup each week of the season. And get this, it starts at just $1. So you can go to the vending machine at work, you can buy a drink, or you join FanDuel. Just pick a contest, choose your team, and watch the score in real time. Makes every game more exciting. You get all the players you want. If you missed out on Brady in your fantasy league, it's not a problem. And over 2.5 million players have won cash prizes while playing fantasy sports on FanDuel. Sign up today on FanDuel.com, click the Join Now button, and use our code PATRIOTSBEAT. That's one word, PATRIOTSBEAT. Try FanDuel for free, so not even the $1 right away, for free. With no deposit required, visit FanDuel.com to claim your free contest and play for a share of $10,000. Sign up using the promo code PATRIOTSBEAT. That's FanDuel.com, promo code PATRIOTSBEAT. Void where prohibited. All right, so we're getting ready for the Patriots and the Texans. My name is Alex Barth. I want to thank you for joining us on really what is like a summer Sunday. Great day for tailgating. If you're outside, if you have me on down at Gillette, I appreciate it. Put a burger aside for me. I would love one right now. But you know what? The celebrating is going to end when you get inside from the parking lot, or when you park your ass down on the couch, or whatever it is. This is not going to be Patriots-Texans in the playoffs last year. It's certainly not going to be Patriots-Texans Thursday Night Football with Jacoby Brissett under center like it was last year. This is going to be a tough game. Because, and we'll talk about the inactives in a second, but the Texans have done, Bill O'Brien's done what he's been doing for the last 3 years. He is building a team meant to beat the New England Patriots. And it seems like they've finally kind of hit that stride where they are a concern. Once again, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, put them down below. If you're watching on Periscope. And let's start with the inactives, and then I'll kind of lead into that thought. Comparing J.J. Watt to Lawrence Taylor, different positions. J.J. Watt doesn't have to cover. So the inactives of the page, I'm not going to read them all because, you know, Cole Croston, we're familiar with those guys. Here are the inactives that stood out to me. Donta Hightower will be inactive for now the second week in a row. And I said last week I wasn't too concerned about not having him against the Saints because it didn't seem like a game where he would factor into the game plan much defensively. And clearly he didn't, because they did okay. This week they needed him. It's going to be interesting to see how they fill in without him, because Harvey Longy, who's been getting snaps at linebacker, is also inactive. That leaves you David Robert, well, I'm blanking here. David Harris, pardon me, and Landon Roberts as your two middle linebackers. We're going to need those guys. Patriots are going to need those guys this week against Deshaun Watson. Touch on that a little more in a sec. The rest of the inactives, Eric Rowe is inactive. So a huge game for Malcolm Butler. We find out really what he is capable of this season, if he is still distracted by the contract talks, whatever it is. They need him today. No, the Texans have a lot of good receivers. No Matthew Slater, again, although Nate Ebner is active, so that should be a boost on special teams. And I have not been a fan of the Patriots special teams, at least their kick coverage, through the first couple of weeks. There's been a couple times teams have come really close to breaking one against the Patriots. I'm happy to see Ebner back in the lineup playing. I think he will be a bigger factor than some expect. He'll help out with the field position battle. Rex Burkhead, as we all know, inactive with the rib thing. He took a couple shots last week. I'm not surprised, but he has been a key part of the offense. So we will see how they adjust not having him. I think if you have James White in fantasy, you're in really good shape this week. The final inactive, because this is where I want to start off the show. Again, if you have any comments, though, please let me know. I'm more than happy to talk about it. Is Marcus Cannon. We actually do have a comment here. I think this is going to be a big game for Brandon Cooks, and I'm going to get into it. Let me talk about Marcus Cannon because it's all connected, and that's part of what makes football such a great game. No Marcus Cannon this week, starting right tackle, and I said this against the Chiefs. Him and Nate Solder are two of the biggest players in that game, and they're going to be again this week. And I'm really uncomfortable not having Marcus Cannon because we saw how much he's struggled through the first couple games. Who's filling in for him? They still don't have Tony Garcia, their top pick. McDermott, I believe, is still on the practice squad. And the Texans may have the best pass rush in football. You got, obviously, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless. They've got guys that come after the quarterback. You're going to need to protect Brady today. You are going to need a big-time performance from your offensive line. I wasn't confident with Cannon and Solder, and now there's no Cannon. I'm surprised. I don't know what it is. I didn't see him go down last week, but there wasn't much talk about it during the week, which leads me to believe it's not that serious, and I wish we'd seen him play today, at least them try to get him out there and see what he could do against this Texans team. That being said, I echoed this last week. I'm going to say it again because it worked so well against the Texans in the playoffs last year. Play action, play action, play action. Establish the run to try to go over the top. I do think Brandon Cooks could be in for a big game. He had a couple of targets last week. I think that number could go up. As great as the Texans' pass rush is, I'm not a fan of their secondary. And they're going to need to counter the pass rush with something other than an offensive line because I don't know how great the offensive line is going to look today. I don't. And that if they get beat, it's going to be up front on the offensive side of the ball if they lose this game today. It's because Brady's getting hit. He's running around. And remember what the Texans do differently than everybody else. And Bill O'Brien, from years of working with Tom Brady, knows that this works. They don't pressure Brady from the outside. They come up the middle. They know that's the best way to get in Brady's head and expect them to attack the middle today. Now, I know Cannon's on the outside. He's a tackle. But he factors into the scheme, the blocking scheme, and you still would have him kick inside at times. I would assume whoever fills in for Cannon, you're going to have J.J. Watt there coming at Brady, not from the blind side like he usually does, but I think they're just going to match Cannon up against the inexperienced tackle, whether it be Ladrin, Waddle, Cameron Fleming, whoever it is, and they're just going to set him loose. Maybe move Clowney over there, keep him fresh, rotate a little bit, but yeah, concerning to see Marcus Cannon out of the lineup for me. That's a guy they were really going to need this week, and unfortunately they will not have. But like I said, there are some good signs. All the wide receivers who can be active are active. Obviously, no Edelman and no Mitchell, but Amendola looks good to go. There's already video of Philip Dorsett running around on the field before the game. He's expected to play. I would think he will play. He practiced most of the week. I think he'll be good. So the wide receivers look good to go. Like I said, having Nate Ebner back is big. His first game back. And again, it's Rowe, Hightower, and Cannon are the three that really concern me. Let's talk about Eric Rowe being inactive now. Again, this is the CLNS Media Patriots pregame show. We are live on YouTube and Periscope. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever it may be, feel free to weigh in, put it in the chat. I'm more than happy to talk about whatever you guys want me to talk about. I'm just kind of going through my points, but I think if there's something that you guys want talked about, I'll absolutely weigh in on it. But no Eric Rowe this week. He will miss the action, and we will see what Malcolm Butler's really made of. We knew the storyline last week. He didn't play. Some people said, oh, it's, you know, it's scheme related. The Saints have bigger wide receivers, which they do. But for your number one corner, a guy that's looking at a $15-20 million even per year contract next offseason, to not play him in that spot is surprising. Now, they don't really have a choice this week. As good as Jonathan Jones was last week, and I was a huge fan of his game last week, it's one game. I'm interested to see more, but I'm not lining him up as the number one corner just yet. Malcolm Butler's got this. This is the game where Malcolm Butler will make his money in the offseason. He's going to be up against a good wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. I think they will man him up with DeAndre Hopkins. Stephon Gilmore does not have good history against Hopkins. I would not put Gilmore on Hopkins. I think whoever it is going to have a man over the top. Double, and we have a comment here on Periscope, Belichick will double up on J.J. Watt, make him a non-factor. Double up with who? And if you double him up, you still have Merciless, you still have Clowney. I mean, you're probably going to assign the back to his side, but I just think you're going to need a way to counter the Texans pass rush other than traditional blocking, and that's the play action for me. Anyway, like I was saying, Malcolm Butler in the lineup, this is going to be the game where he earns his money. He probably will have some help over the top. It will probably be Devin McCourty over the top, but it's going to be on him to take away DeAndre Hopkins. If you can do that, Deshaun Watson's rookie quarterback, traditionally not good with the second read. We saw it at Clemson. He wasn't great when his first option was taken away. Obviously, pardon me, it's something he's worked on. It's something he has gotten better with, but they need Butler today. They need Malcolm Butler. He needs to show up, and well, this could be too. If he is on the way out, this could be the difference. The Patriots receive maybe a 2nd or 3rd round pick instead of a traditional conditional 5th round pick. And speaking of guys who may be on the way out, I'm interested to see Alan Branch too. Texans have a decent running game. I am a fan of Lamar Miller. I have been since he was at Miami. I think he's a very good player. Alan Branch, again, didn't play last week, and it made sense strategically. The Saints don't run a lot, but we didn't see him much week 1 either. Adam Butler has come on, and he has been outstanding. I have loved every play I've seen from him. The guy has one of the highest motors I've ever seen. Incredibly agile for a guy his size. Big Adam Butler guy over here, but he's in a way making Alan Branch obsolete. Remember, they gave him a 2-year contract in the offseason. They did pay him, but he could be one of these mid-season moves, a guy that's on his way out. So we'll see how much he plays today, because unlike the Saints, this is a game where it actually makes sense to play Alan Branch a good amount. If they don't, yeah, I think the sign is that his tenure is done in New England. It was a good tenure, and I from when they got him, I thought nobody's talking about this. This guy's a great player, but we may be just about done with Alan Branch here in New England if he doesn't play. I think if he plays today, look, last week was weird in terms of the Saints are unlike teams the Patriots normally play. The NFC South is kind of doing their own weird Big 12 type of thing down there. But against the Houston Texans, Alan Branch should play and should be a factor if the Texans are going to run the ball, which I believe they will. So, looking at Alan Branch, Malcolm Butler, how many snaps do they get today? How effective are they? That's going to be a difference maker in today's game. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat on YouTube or down below on Periscope. You're watching the CLNS Media Patriots pregame show, brought to you by CLNS. You can follow them on Twitter at CLNS Media. You can follow me on Twitter as well at TheRealAlexB. There's one thing I want to touch on here real quick, and then we'll talk about the Patriots a little more about Deshaun Watson. But the one thing I want to touch on is we all know what's been going on in the news the last couple of days. The comments made by the president regarding the NFL and some of its players in the national anthem. Look, I'm a guy who stands up for the national anthem at my house when it's on TV. Take my hat off, all that, because that's my choice. That's what I believe in. That's what I want to do. Because I do love my country, and I think, or I know a huge reason that I have so much love and respect for this country is because I get to do this. I get to talk in a free form about whatever I want, criticize whoever I want, without persecution. So I think if somebody wants to take that freedom and kneel for the national anthem, I totally respect it. It's not my choice, but I will respect their right to do it, and I applaud their courage to do it. So I think it was 27 players in the game this morning in London took a knee, and good for them. The Steelers won't even come out of the locker room for the anthem. I think that's interesting. Kind of keep it in-house, which we all know NFL teams love to do about whatever it is, injuries, suspensions, whatever it may be. Teams like to deal with things on their own. So if players want to kneel, they should kneel. If players want to stand, they should stand. I always thought national anthem before sporting events, it's a nice moment as a team. You're just kind of all standing there quietly, you have the warm-up music blaring, you're all jumping around. There's all this energy going on right before the game, and then as you're about to go on the field, there's like 2 minutes of silence. And I always thought that was a really neat moment, and that's kind of what it means to me. So standing, kneeling, I think to each their own. So I just wanted to mention that. We'll get back to the X's and O's football talk here. If you have any I'm not going to take comments on that because I don't want to get in a political discussion. If you have comments on the X's and O's today's game, Patriots, Texans, please put them in the comments down below. My name is Alex Barth. You're watching or listening to the CLNS Media pregame show because we do post this after the game on clnsradio.com, so you can check it out if you missed anything. And let's talk about the rookie quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Now, disclaimer. I am an Alabama fan, Alabama football fan. He broke my heart last year in the national championship. But boy, is he fun to watch. He has that Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton. He's not. I don't like calling him a scrambling quarterback because to me that's a guy that can't throw. A scrambling quarterback is a guy that wants to scramble first. That's a Joe Webb kind of quarterback. Colin Klein, if you remember from Kansas State, to throw a random name out there. No, he is a mobile quarterback. He's a quarterback who can throw from outside the pocket. Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, those kind of guys. So And the Patriots traditionally have a lot of trouble with those kind of quarterbacks. And Dante Hightower is normally the guy who locks it down. You put him in a spy in the middle. He's not there today. That's why I think big game today potentially from David Harris. I think Landon Roberts not quite quick enough for that role. He's going to be more zone coverage over the middle. David Harris in a quarterback spy I think would be huge to stopping Deshaun Watson. Now the last thing you want to let Deshaun Watson do, and we saw it in the national championship, you don't want to let him hit his first couple of throws. Because when this guy gets momentum, when he gets in a groove, he is one of the more streaky quarterbacks I've seen. And he's still young, and it's expected from young quarterbacks. But even for a rookie, he's pretty streaky. He hits 3 or 4 passes in a row, he's about to dominate for about a quarter and a half. Whereas if you start getting in his passing lanes, knocking the ball down at the line of scrimmage, contesting the wide receivers, he's going to get down on himself a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see. And that's why I think the running game will be huge for the Texans to space that out for him. But I think he's going to try to roll around, look for the underneath stuff, pretty much the opposite of what the Patriots saw last week. I think the tight ends are going to play a big role, as banged up as the Texans are at that position. Lamar Miller's probably going to catch some balls this week. They're going to move him around, get him outside of the pocket, but keep him throwing. That's my game plan this week if I'm the Houston Texans looking at Deshaun Watson. They got a great piece here. I don't necessarily think he's the prospect some people think he is, but he's going to have a decent NFL career. I've liked what I've seen from him through the first couple weeks. I'm not always a fan of what he does, but to me, he has been the best rookie quarterback so far. I'm looking forward to watching him today, and he hasn't exactly played the best defenses. This is probably the best defense he'll play, and I know people are down on the Patriots defense. It's every year with the Patriots. We're here week 3. We got a comment here on Periscope. Deshaun Watson reminds me of Russell Wilson his first year, young and streaky, but can still make it with his feet. That's a good comparison. The one thing that's stopping me from comparing him with Russell Wilson, though, Deshaun Watson is much bigger, and he can use that. He's a bigger player, and he knows it. You see him going into contact. You see him shaking off tacklers. Russell Wilson doesn't really have that aspect to his game, and it's such a big part of the elsewhere, yes, that's actually a very good comparison. But I just think you have that aspect of Deshaun Watson's game that Russell Wilson doesn't have at, 5'10"? Listed at 5'10", which would mean he's 5'8". Yeah, I just go a little short of making that comparison, but I do see where you're coming from. That is an interesting point. But yeah, so like I was saying with the Patriots, we're always here week 3. Name me the last time the Patriots were world beaters in September. I'm really racking my brain. I can't think of one. They always struggle the first month of the season. And that's why last year with the Brady suspension, it was weird because they always suck the first. They don't suck, but they always struggle the first 4 weeks. And then October comes around and boom, they figure it out. They get it together and they become the New England Patriots. They're always right in the pack the first 4 weeks. They're slow starters. They traditionally are. Belichick needs to tinker with the roster, tinker with the game plan. And we're right in line with that. This is no worse than they've been any other year. In 2014, they lost 2 of the first 4 games. They lost to the Miami Dolphins. They almost lost to a dreadful Oakland Raiders team. That was right before the Raiders got good. That was the game Vince Wilfork had the interception to seal it. They needed a Vince Wilfork interception to seal the game at the end. So I'm not too worried about where the Patriots are right now. I know the defense is struggling, and I recognize that. But I'm not willing to say the defense is a liability yet, because this is kind of what happens with them. They always struggle at the beginning of the year. When they finally figure out everybody's role, they put it all together. There's some guys that they really haven't started to work into the offense yet. David Harris being one. I know he has a nagging injury issue. They haven't been able to get him out on the field. I think today could be a change with that. Trey Flowers has been okay. He hasn't really gotten going. Adam Butler's still learning. It looks like he'll be a key part of that defense. The communication in the secondary is still improving between Gilmore, McCourty, Butler, Rowe. They're all getting used to playing with each other. As we've seen a couple of busted coverages, a couple of busted help defense over the top issues in the first couple of weeks. The defense will get better. They just need time. Like any good team, like any good unit, they just need time to get better. These guys haven't worked together for long yet. Deatrich Wise, perfect example. And I know people think Deatrich Wise has been great the first couple of weeks, and he has. But he's gonna get better. He's only played 2 NFL games. Assuming he stays healthy, and that's why he was so low in the draft. There is a health issue with him. He already had the concussion in training camp in the preseason, but this defense is only, and I don't want it to be a there's nowhere to go but up thing, because yes, they could get worse. And again, injuries are a huge part of this. Don't cold take me by, you know, if they lose half of their defense, then say, oh, you said the defense would get better. With the current pieces they have, the defense will get better. It's Belichick's thing every year. Same with the offensive line. Although I don't know about this week without Marcus Cannon, and they don't really have a lot of depth at that position, but they do have Dante Scarnecchia. So you can't count them out with that. And on defense, they got Belichick, they got Patricia. They'll figure it out. It's going to be a big week for Dante Scarnecchia. I should have mentioned his name earlier when I was talking about the offensive line and what to expect from the offensive line this week. But, yeah, just to go back to that, if you missed it at the beginning, the matchup to watch this week for me is the Patriots' offensive line, specifically at right tackle, where Marcus Cannon's out. How are they going to handle J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless? That, to me, is where the game will be won or lost for the New England Patriots. They in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball. Because Deshaun Watson, I know I was praising him earlier. If you get in a shootout, Brady all day over Deshaun Watson. Shouldn't be a question. The only thing is if Brady's getting knocked around, Deshaun Watson can put one or two drives together and Brady's on his back, you could be in trouble. Because we saw it against Kansas City. This Patriots team not great at playing from behind. At least from what we've seen so far. Although I said last week I thought the Patriots would receive if they won the coin toss. I'll go back to kick this week. I guess I'll make that a part of my weekly analyst, what I think the Patriots will do with the coin toss, but a big game for the offensive line this week. Again, this is the CLNS Media Patriots pregame show. My name's Alex Barth. Thanks for checking us out, whether you are on YouTube or you're on Periscope. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. More than happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We've touched on the offensive line a little bit for the Patriots. We've touched on Hightower being inactive. We've touched on Eric Rowe being inactive. If you have any other comments, anything else you think I've missed in the show as we get ready to wrap it up here in the next couple of minutes, anything you think I've missed, feel free to put it in the chat, in the comments. I'm more than happy to talk about it. I think we've covered, check my notes here, just about all the big storylines. Mentioned Nate Ebner. I think there's going to be a big boost getting him back today. Just in terms of defensive field position, and let's admit it, there's been a couple times this year where you've cringed sitting on the couch watching teams return kicks against the Patriots. No Slater, no Ebner. That's going to hurt. Ebner being back, the average football fan will not notice it. If you're looking closely, having Nate Ebner back is going to be a big difference. Watch. Those kick returns that were getting out to the 30, the 35-yard line the last couple of weeks, those are going to be stopped at the 20, the 25-yard line this week. I will bring up Jonathan Jones again. Let's go back to Jonathan Jones before we close out the show. He had a really good game last week. A really good game. Corner out of Auburn. He's mostly been a special teams player throughout his tenure in New England, a short tenure, but I wrote a piece in the preseason for CouchGuySports.com about the Patriots' ability to acquire undrafted talent at the cornerback position. And you look last year, there were 12 corners in the NFL who were undrafted, not necessarily that year, but were brought into the league undrafted and started at least half of their team's games. 6 of those corners had multiple interceptions. 3 of those corners were given their first shot by the New England Patriots. Sterling Moore, obviously no longer with the team. Crayvon LeBlanc, who was a rookie last year that was part of the final cuts, ended up in Chicago. And, of course, Malcolm Butler. And you look where else they've gone with undrafted corner success, too, and they've had it. And Jonathan Jones could be the next guy in that stretch. Undrafted out of Auburn, ran a 4.2 240. Teams didn't like him because he played 99% of his snaps in the slot at Auburn, and he doesn't translate to the slot in the NFL. It's just a different game. Teams weren't sure if he'd be able to play outside. Patriots take the chance. And after last week, yeah, it looks like Jonathan Jones can play the outside corner spot. It was one game, but it was against Drew Brees, against a good Saints passing attack. Let's see what he does this week. But if Jonathan Jones continues to emerge, look, no Eric Rowe this week. We're expecting Malcolm Butler to get snaps, and this isn't something that's going to change in 1 week. But if Jonathan Jones starts playing like he did last week on a regular basis, when we get to that Week 8 trade deadline, I don't want to say Malcolm Butler is expendable because a corner that good's never expendable, but in the last year of his contract, you know he's not coming back. We all saw what happened with Jamie Collins last year, and I'll just leave it at that. I would not... There's still a lot of time to go between now and then. A lot of things can change, but it would not blow me away if Malcolm Butler's name is at least discussed at the trading deadline. We've seen Bill do this before. it wouldn't be anything new. And Jonathan Jones is only going to help that case. Although Eric Rowe not playing, we'll see what his... If Eric Rowe is going to miss an extended period of time, you can throw that all out the window. Because as good as Jonathan Jones looked last week, like I said, it's just one game. I'm not going to bank my whole season on him, especially when Stephon Gilmore has looked like the player he was in Buffalo, which is overrated and not that good. Look, Gilmore's a good second corner, but you can't... He's good up at the line. He's good at jamming. He's good taking away that 5-yard crossing pattern. But in the Patriots' bend-don't-break defense, he's not great against the deep ball, and that's kind of what you need. We see him falling over. We see him leaning off routes. We see him stopping in the middle of plays. I don't think he's gotten enough attention in a negative way. I don't think he's gotten enough attention as he should have here early in the year. We'll see what he does today. Again, it's only 2 games. We're making a lot of bold statements 2 games in, but Stephon Gilmore needs to show me something for, what is it, $15 million a year, almost $15 million a year. I need to see something from Stephon Gilmore, because if Malcolm Butler leaves, he's the #1 corner the way they paid him, and he has not played like a #1 corner at this point, not at all. This is the CLNS Media Patriots pregame show. My name's Alex Barth. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you're watching live, if you have any comments, feel free to put them in the chat real quick here before we wrap it up. I want to remind everybody, Mike Petraglia at Trags on Twitter. We'll have our coverage throughout the game. Mike and Marv back here on the CLNS YouTube page post-game. We'll wrap it all up, break it down, and look ahead to the Patriots game next week, which I believe is Carolina. I know they have Carolina, Tampa back-to-back. I think it's Carolina, then Tampa. I don't have the schedule in front of me right now, but they finish off, outside of that Falcons game, which I believe is in November, they finish off with the NFC South pretty early. But Mike and Marv will have all of that for you, including the correct schedule, which I apparently don't, after the game. If you have any last questions or comments, anything you think I didn't touch on, feel free to put it down below. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game today, especially with the Patriots, without Marcus Cannon and that Texans pass rush. Give me, let's see, I gave a score last week. I'm going to throw out a score this week, too. Let's go 24-16 Patriots. 24-16. That's going to be my score. I think that was close last week. I forget what I said last week. I'll have to go back and check. 24-16 Patriots is my pick for this one, but it's not going to be pretty. This is going to be a hair-pulling game to watch, and it very possibly is a playoff preview. Although, who knows? The way the Jaguars look today in the morning, maybe that's your AFC South team. Boy, Blake Bortles is not going to want to leave London. That was something that he put up. Look, the Ravens were the worst 2-0 team in the league. I've been saying since week 1 that they were overrated. They've played a weak schedule. They played the Bengals and the Browns. Yeah, I'm not buying in on that. And I think this is the team we saw today. Not this bad, but the team we saw today is more akin to what the Baltimore Ravens are than other years. And Patriots don't play the Ravens this year. First time it feels like in a while. So unless somehow Ravens make it to the playoffs, but in that division, that's still all Steelers all the way. They're going to beat up on the Colts today, and that will be that. All right, looks like everybody's gotten their comments in. We got about half an hour to kick, so I'm going to give everybody some time to go get the nachos out of the oven, put the beers in the cooler, etc., whatever your pregame tradition may be. Make sure to follow me during the game as well, at @TheRealAlexB. I'll be talking about the game a little bit. If you want to call me on anything I said, you think I was incorrect, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Until then, make sure to follow CLNS on Twitter at CLNS Media, at Patriot_beat for our Patriots coverage, at Trags for our coverage during the game. I want to thank Nick Gelso, everybody at CLNS. Again, my name is Alex Barth. This has been the CLNS Media Patriots pregame show. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you all next week. Enjoy the game, everybody. Bye-bye.